The year is 2009. Pep Guardiola, in his first season at Barcelona, is in hot pursuit of the league title. Real Madrid, on the other hand, are going through a bit of a rough patch by their standards, where success on the European stage has deserted them for the best part of 7 years. As both sets of players step out under the bright lights of the Santiago Bernabéu, nobody in the ground that night, nor watching around the world, would have been able to fathom just how significant the result of that game would go on to be, as a stunning 6-2 victory for Barcelona undoubtedly kick-started one of the most entertaining, dramatic and revolutionary footballing sagas the world has ever seen. This is the story of El Clásico's peak era.
Moves inside Ronaldo! Messi can finish off Real Madrid. Messi! Benzema! Alexis!
Now, before we talk about anything and everything, we first need to set the stage, because this defeat for Real Madrid wasn't just a defeat. It was an indication that the gap between Spain's top two clubs was only growing bigger and bigger. Not only were Barca a team proudly presenting their next generation of young, homegrown talents, but they were more pleasing on the eye, outfoxing Real in each and every way possible, all presided over by a coach who is only just beginning to flex his managerial muscle. After all, this was the game where Pep Guardiola officially unveiled the false 9 role for a 21-year-old Lionel Messi, arguably the greatest individual tactical move ever. By the time Messi had set one up, scored a couple himself, and centre-back 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗥𝗔 was strolling up the pitch to bury the sixth, the world knew they were watching something truly, truly special. If the writing wasn't already on the wall for Real Madrid, it was now everywhere. Newspapers, online, radio, and the very early forms of social media. They were miles off it, and something needed to be done. So what did President Florentino Perez do? He got out the checkbook. Dubbed the second wave of Galacticos, a whole host of top stars came into the club that summer. Xabi Alonso, Karim Benzema, Kaká, and most importantly, Cristiano Ronaldo.
1, 2, 3.
But despite this, plus a change in manager, the following season ended trophyless. They had all the moving parts, all the right players, they just needed that one final key ingredient, a special someone with the perfect recipe to cook up this Real Madrid revival. And as it turns out, he was right under their nose.
Three for Inter Milan, the first Italian treble winners, maybe the last act of Jose Mourinho's time as Inter manager. What a way to go. Madrid belongs to Mourinho tonight and probably for some time to come. He's made himself at home in the Bernabéu this evening.
He was the one they wanted, and he was the one they got just a few weeks later. The mission was simple: be ruthless, more pragmatic, win at all costs. Oh, and if you can stop arguably the greatest Barcelona side ever whilst you're at it, that's also great. With his trademark psychological warfare ready to push all players and rules to the limits, Jose was the perfect man for the job. And the anticipation for their first league meeting was insane. This was it. The moment that Real Madrid had hoped would signal the start of a new era. Their era. No longer were they to be so easily swept to suck 5-0. They lost 5-0. For all the talk, the signings, the new manager who had enjoyed the greatest start of any coach in Madrid's history, nothing had changed. It was the moment the rivalry turned from as much a sporting contest into a psychological one. Mourinho realised that the beautiful way might not always work for him, and to stop Barcelona, it was time to get ugly. Well, uglier, if that was even possible on the Mourinho tactical scale. He needed to figure it out, and fast, because what was about to happen toward the end of the campaign was unprecedented. 4 Clásicos in 18 days across 3 different competitions: La Liga, Copa del Rey, and the Champions League semi-finals. Forget anything you watched on TV at the time. This was the series to end all series. Up first, the league fixture, a tense 1-1 that felt like an appetizer. It wasn't necessarily a result that anyone wanted, but more importantly for Real Madrid, despite Raúl Albiol's red card, they hadn't lost to Barcelona for the first time in 3 years. The touch paper was lit. The first of 2 main courses was the Copa del Rey final in Valencia. This was a different Madrid. Mourinho had focused purely on stopping Barcelona. He used Pepe as an aggressive midfield destroyer, and the match became a relentless slugfest. After a grueling 90 minutes ended 0-0, the game went to extra time, and in the 103rd minute, the moment of truth finally came.
Di Maria, good ball from Marcelo, that great cross, header, goal! Cristiano Ronaldo! A magnificent header! Real Madrid with a breakthrough! What a big goal that could turn out to be!
It was a breakthrough moment, a proof of concept for Mourinho. The counter-attack could prevail. It was vital, a psychological trophy win, giving Madrid the belief that they could in fact beat this magnificent Barcelona team. They had finally slain the dragon. Well, sort of, because the fight for supremacy was still ongoing, and the next battleground was arguably the biggest of them all, the Champions League semi-finals. The first leg at the Bernabeu was really something to behold. The atmosphere, hostile. The aftertaste of the first two games, lingering. The prize for winning, taking a huge step towards a Champions League final. You know a rivalry has reached peak hatred when Barcelona's substitute goalkeeper, Jose Pinto, is sent off for a melee at half-time. And the red cards didn't even stop there. In fact, it reached such fever pitch that Pepe was sent off for a reckless tackle on Dani Alves, which in turn saw Mourinho's complaints to the referee earn him a sending off too, watching hopelessly from the stands as amidst all the chaos, utter genius emerged.
Away from Marcelo. Messi! The Catalan Kings lead in Madrid. And this time, Pep is the boss. But here's Messi. Away from 2, 3, 4. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. How good is he? A near supernatural goal from Lionel Messi.
All the hatred, the tactics, the noise, silenced by a 23-year-old taking matters into his own hands. It was the complete antithesis of Real's Cup final win just a few weeks earlier. Now, the fallout of the game was jarring, to say the least. The post-match press conference rant by Jose Mourinho saw him accusing the rest of corruption after watching his side get a red card for the third game in a row against Barca. There were also accusations of racist remarks from Sergio Busquets, and both teams complained to UEFA about the other's conduct. All of this would suggest that the second leg in Barcelona was just a ticking time bomb. But instead of a referee's worst nightmare, the match was actually a thoroughly entertaining one, showing that first and foremost, these were football players, and very good ones at that. Another 1-1 draw closed out this 4-game series, and a draw that saw Barcelona book their place in yet another Champions League final, one they of course went on to win. The sheer intensity of these 4 games led to arguably the most iconic off-field moment of the whole era, in the Supercopa match later that year, where Mourinho walked over during a mass brawl, because of course there was a mass brawl, and poked Barcelona assistant coach Tito Vilanova in the eye. This wasn't just football. This was a personal vendetta that completely spilled over, creating an environment of perpetual hate that defined this golden age. But here's the thing about Mourinho. Whether you love him or hate him, today or tomorrow, this game or the next, eventually, he always wins. With the 2011-2012 season well underway and Jose having pulled his finger out of Tito Villanova's eye, he was actually steadily building a team truly worthy of being champions. This Madrid side was a counter-attacking machine that went on to score a record number of league goals that year, 121 of them in fact. But despite the eventual success of the campaign, there were still some Clásico defeats to endure because Barcelona were just inevitable. Wave after wave of pressure ended in 3 goals without reply and a rather comfortable win. What this all meant was that Real would have to plan their best time to strike, like a poacher waiting to pounce, and fully take their moment when it presented itself. Nowhere was this more typified than in that season's Copa del Rey quarterfinals, where like the Champions League semi-final the previous year, Real Madrid left themselves so much to do in the second leg after a first leg home loss. Trailing 2-1 going into the Camp Nou return, Real found themselves a further 2 goals down by half-time, but through sheer footballing prowess managed to haul themselves back level in what was shaping up to be yet another enthralling chapter in this peak Clásico era. And then Sergio Ramos got sent off. Dream over, Barcelona progressed, and Real's moment would have to wait, although not for too long. April 2012, a few months later, and we're back at the Camp Nou. The league title hangs in the balance. Real Madrid sit 4 points clear of Barcelona, knowing that victory would put them 7 points clear. And with 4 games to go, it was the sort of lead that would be too much to overcome even for this great Barcelona side. With all the focus on the match itself, another subplot was slowly building up, one that would yet again change the course of Clásico history. Whether it was a fully committed decision at this point or just an idea floating around his head, this Clásico was to be Pep Guardiola's last. Announcing his departure a few weeks later from the club, it's clear that the energy and the willpower it took to craft and push this most extraordinary of teams, whilst constantly going head to head with their greatest rivals, just caught up with even the best of them. With its usual display of attacking talent on show, the game was entertaining, almost incident-free by El Clásico standards, with the score tied at 1 each heading in to the closing stages. It was a draw that suited the visitors more than the host, but as mentioned before, Real were waiting for their perfect time to strike, and this was it.
Grip ball. Ronaldo, he's onside, he's beaten the defence, he draws Valdez! Cristiano Ronaldo with a platinum touch!
If Messi had had his legendary El Clásico moment 1 year earlier, this was now Cristiano's. A fitting back and forth for the two greatest players of all time, who would not only go on to define this rivalry in years to come, but to redefine football as a whole. The goal was the winner, the moment of defiance, and the one that essentially sealed Real Madrid's 100-point record-breaking La Liga title. It was the definitive proof that Mourinho had succeeded in his mission. He had built a team capable of beating the unbeatable and delivered it ever so poetically on enemy soil. With Guardiola leaving, the Real victory, La Liga's ultimate prize, heading back to the Spanish capital after years away, it marked the definitive end of the most intense, brutal and spectacular era El Clásico has ever known. But the impact on the broader football scene was far from done. Now, if sports has taught me anything, it's that every great rivalry leaves scars, and by the summer of 2012, the relentless emotional toll began to fracture everything. Teams, friendships, relationships, even the Spanish national squad. The cause? Years of tension, constant confrontation and fatigue on both sides. Inside the Spanish camp, Barcelona and Madrid players once united to win Euro 2008 and the 2010 World Cup, but at this point, they carried the bitterness of club battles into training. Xavi against Casillas, Piqué against Ramos. Teammates had turned to adversaries. It took the leadership of captains like Casillas and Xavi to restore peace behind closed doors, and in all honesty, it obviously worked. Although it was a Barcelona majority side that saw Spain cruise to another European Championships in the summer. Guardiola, meanwhile, had handed the reins over to his assistant Tito Vilanova. His meticulous nature, once his strength, had become a burden. "I'm empty," he admitted, paying the ultimate price in the pursuit of perfection. On the other side of the rivalry, Mourinho's methods also began to crack Madrid's harmony. By 2013, internal divisions grew, clashes with players, rifts in the dressing room, public tension with Casillas. The war he waged to destroy Barcelona eventually consumed his own team, paying the ultimate price in the pursuit of victory. Between 2009 and 2012, El Clásico had burned so brightly it began to scorch the sport itself, blazing a trail so epic that no rivalry, not even their own, could follow on from. What started as philosophy and beauty ended as survival. The era's close wasn't marked by a final whistle, but by a collective exhale, and an acknowledgement that the game had seen something incredible, never to be witnessed again. Guardiola's Barcelona inspired a generation. His principles, pressing, positional play, building from the back, became the foundation for his career's work at modern giants like Man City and Bayern Munich, and even for Spain's continued dominance. Mourinho's Madrid, meanwhile, gave tactical counterpoint, proving that there's beauty in defiance. His approach influenced managers like Simeone and Conte, pragmatic, emotional, disciplined. Together, Pep and Mourinho redrew football's strategic map. For players, that era was immortality. Messi and Ronaldo's duels shattered records and reshaped individual achievement. Their rivalry birthed global fandom, kids on every continent choosing sides. Millions stayed up past midnight for those 90 minutes, hearts racing, knowing that they were witnessing something historic. The drama, artistry and fury turned El Clásico from a football match into godlike mythology. El Clásico's golden era was more than a battle between clubs. It was the sport's ultimate mirror, showing us that football greatness isn't built in peace, but in rivalry.
Moves inside Ronaldo!
Messi can finish off Real Madrid. Messi! Benzema!
Alexis!